Morning, grade twos, it's me again. Or if you haven't watched the previous video, you will, and you get to see me twice today. Okay, so today I'm going to do this particular video on, it's for English, for home language, and it is about comprehensions. Okay, so let's get started so that you can see what it is that I'm talking about. Okay, let me share my screen here with you. Okay, so maybe you've heard this word comprehension before. You may have heard it when in grade 1, when your teacher said we're going to do a reading comprehension or we are going to do a listening comprehension. Okay, but let's talk about this word comprehension, okay? It comes from the word comprehend. Okay, so what does this word comprehension mean? Well, it means that you understand something. If you can comprehend something, it means that you understand it. Okay, so in English, in home language, how do we use that? Well, we read a story and we answer questions about it. So if you get all your answers right, that means that you were able to comprehend the story. You were able to read it, understand it, and therefore answer questions correctly about it. Okay. Now, there's a few skills that go into this, and I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you so that when you do comprehensions in class, you'll use and apply these skills so that you can get all your work correct. Okay, so let's start. So I'm going to read you a story. Okay, the story this morning is called Let's Go Kayaking. All right, I'll put the story up on the screen. If you would like, what you could do now is pause the video and try reading as much of the story as you can on your own. Okay, it's really good to try read on your own. Sometimes maybe mom and dad can help you with a few, or whoever's sitting next to you. If there is someone, just help you with some difficult words. But if there's no one sitting next to you and you are struggling, then I will read the story with you now. Okay, so you're either pausing now or you're going to read with me. Okay, here we go. Dave and his friend Grant love to go kayaking in the summer. They each have their own kayak. Oh, I've got my screen here. Dave's kayak is yellow and Grant's kayak is red. Whenever it is not raining, they kayak on the small lake in town. They look for fish, turtles, and muskrats when they are kayaking. They also like to see ducks and loons. Sometimes they bring fishing poles with them so they can try to catch the fish. Sometimes they just paddle around. They have the most fun when they race each other in their kayaks. They always pack a lunch. They have a favorite spot on the lake to stop and eat their sandwiches. After lunch, they paddle around the lake some more. Then they stop again to have some cookies. Even if they can't spend a full day kayaking, they will go out for at least an hour each day. They really love kayaking. Okay, so before we start a story, I like to talk about some of these, some of the things that you heard or read and perhaps don't know what they mean. Okay, so I pulled out these 3 words to help you understand the story a bit more. So this word that comes up is a kayak. Okay, from the picture you can see this is a kayak. It is a long boat that is tapered on the ends for either 1 or 2 people, and you move it about by using your paddle on this side and on this side. Okay, and you obviously take it on lakes and rivers and dams. Right, then they talked about this muskrat. Now, a muskrat is a kind of rodent, like rodents are rats and mice and animals that fall in that category, and it's a semi-aquatic. So what that means is that it can live on land and water, and it almost looks a little bit like a beaver. Okay, and then there's a loon. A loon is a type of bird, it's a duck, and these ducks like to dive really deep down into the water to catch fish. Okay, quite pretty looking birds actually. Okay, so now that you've understood some of the words that you may not have known, we move on. Okay, so I want to talk about question words. Okay, so if you look at these words here, these are all words that when you use them in a sentence, it's going to imply that there is a question. Okay, but let's discuss them a little bit more. When you hear the word who, okay, who is a question word that talks about people. Okay, who are you with? Who is your mom? Who are you? Okay, so it's a question word for people. Then we have the question word what, okay? Now the word what is talking about things, okay? What is in your pencil bag? What is on your head? What is inside the cupboard? Okay, so it relates to things, objects, even animals, okay? And it can also be the reason for something. What are you doing in my classroom? Okay, what is the reason for you in my classroom? All right. Then we have the question word when. Now, when relates to time. When are you coming to school? When are you going to start your homework? When are you going to bath? Okay, so it talks about time. What time are you going to do something? Where is a question word for a place. Where are you going? Where is your classroom? Where do you live? Okay. Why? This question word is for a reason for something. Okay. Why is the sky blue? Why don't you like apples? Why are you feeling sick? So what is the reason? Okay. And then how is the way that you do something? Okay. How are you going to color in your picture? How are you going to do your hair today? Okay, it can also refer to how much or how little of something. How old are you? How long is your hair? How tall are you? How much money do you have? Okay, so these are our question words. And when you see them or when you use them in a sentence, then you know it's going to ask a question. It's going to require you to give an answer. All right, let's move on. Okay, so what I've done here is I have put the question words into different colors, okay? Who, why, what, where, how, when. Okay, here is my story. So what I've done is I'm going to flip it around a little bit and I want you to try and come up with a question. Okay, so here we can see this says Dave and his friend Grant. Okay, it's in red. Okay, red is who. So what do you think a question for Dave and his friend Grant could be? So now I'm doing it in a different way. I'm giving you an answer and I would like you to come up with a question. So we need to use who. So maybe what you could say is, who are the boys in the story? Who are the characters in the story? Who is the story about? Okay, very good. Okay, I've got the word kayaking here. Okay, kayaking is green. Okay, so what question could you have for what that you get the answer kayaking? All right, maybe you could say, what do the boys like doing? And then the answer would be kayaking. Good. In the summer goes with when. Okay, so what do you think the question could be? When do the boys like to kayak? Good, and the answer would be in the summer. Right, now I've got here, Dave's kayak is yellow and Grant's kayak is red. Okay, so I've put it with pink because I want you to think of a how question. Okay, so they like to kayak, but how do they kayak? Okay, so how do the boys kayak on the river? So you could say Dave he kayaks in his yellow kayak and Grant kayaks because he has a red kayak. Very good. Okay, this is another when question. Whenever it is not raining. So what could the question be for whenever it is not raining? It goes with when. So when do they kayak? So not only in the summer, but whenever it is not raining. Okay. They kayak on the small lake in town. Okay, it's blue, so it goes with where. So what could the question be so that we get an answer? They kayak on the small lake in town. Well, the question could be, where do the boys like to kayak? And the answer would be the small lake in town. Okay, moving on. I'm over here. I want you to notice there are quite a few sentences that have been highlighted in yellow, and I'm going to just bunch those all together so that we get one question, and you will see that that question will use all of these answers. Okay, let's look at the answers first. Okay, we're working backwards, remember? So it says here, they look for fish, turtles, and muskrats. They like to see ducks and loons, catch fish, paddle around. They have the most fun when they race each other in their kayaks. Okay, so it goes with yellow, and yellow is a why question. So what do you think the question could be to include all of these answers? Well, the question could be, why do the boys enjoy kayaking? And therefore the answer would be, they like to kayak because they look for fish, turtles, muskrats. They like to see the ducks and loons. They catch fish, they paddle around, and they have fun when they race each other. Okay, all right, let's keep moving on. Here we have in blue, it says favorite spot on the lake. Okay, so favorite spot on the lake is a blue sentence which relates to this question over here, which is where. So the question could be, where do the boys stop on the lake? Okay, and they stop on their favorite spot on the lake. Okay, then it carries on to say to stop and eat their sandwiches. It's yellow, which is a why question. So why do they stop on their favorite spot on the lake? Well, because they like to stop to eat sandwiches. Okay, right, last one. Then they stop again to have some cookies. Okay, it's yellow. So the question could be, why do the boys stop again? And the answer would be to stop again to have some cookies. All right, very good. We will never in class ask you to come up with a question. I just wanted you to see how the question words work with the answers in the story and how you can try linking them. Okay, so now we're going to answer some questions on the story. So this would be more of an example of how we would ask you in class. We would give you a story, you would have the story in front of you, and then the questions underneath that. Okay, you should be able to answer these now that we've read through the story, but I wanted to show you one more skill that's going to really help you when you do your comprehensions. Okay, so we have the first question that says, who are the two characters in the story? Okay, we know who they are already, but this is what we would want you to do when you are sitting in class. Okay, so the question was, who are the two characters in the story? Now, in class, we would ask you to take a colored pencil and a ruler, okay? And you are going to find the answer in the story. You are then going to use that answer you're going to use that sentence as your answer, okay? Why? Well, because you know that your answer will be correct, okay? And you know that your spelling would be correct. So the question was, who are the two characters? Now, if you look over here, okay, imagine this is your colored pencil and ruler, okay? So Dave and his friend Grant. Do you agree those are the two characters in the story? Yes, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to underline this sentence and I am going to copy that exact sentence on my page for my answer. Therefore, I know that it is correct and my spelling is correct. Okay, let's go back here. Whoopsie daisy, I'm a little bit confused. Too many screens. Okay, so who are the two characters? And your answer would be Dave and his friend Grant. And that is the exact thing that I highlighted in my story. Next question, where do they kayak? Okay, you know where they kayak, right? We know it, but now we need to try and write it, okay? And sometimes writing it can be difficult because the spelling can be a little bit challenging. Okay, so the question was, where do they kayak? Okay, they love to go kayaking in the summer. They each have their own kayaks. Whenever it is not raining, they kayak on the small lake in town. So this is the answer I want to use. The question was, where do they kayak? And if you look at this sentence, it answers it beautifully. They kayak on the small lake in town. So you are going to take this sentence as it is and use it as your answer. The only thing you need to change is starting with a capital letter. All right, so let's see how we're going to do that. Okay, where do they kayak? I now take my exact answer from the story, on the small lake in town. What do they look for? Okay, there was quite a few things they look for. So let's go back here so that we can have a look what they look for. So you take your ruler and your pencil and we carry on reading. They look for fish, turtles, and muskrats. Okay, so there's your answer. Right, there's your answer straight from the story. So you take that sentence you underlined and you copy it into your on your page underneath your question. just like I'm going to do over here. Okay, they look for fish, turtles, and muskrats when they go kayaking. They also like to see ducks and loons. Okay, so there was still more to that question. But if you had just stopped by, they look for fish, turtles, and muskrats, you would have absolutely got a tick for that answer. What do they have the most fun doing? Okay, let's go back here. And let's go see if we can find the sentence that tells us. Okay, so if you keep reading, we don't know, it's not there. Sometimes they bring their fishing poles, sometimes they paddle around. What do they have the most fun doing? Well, I remember it said they have the most fun when they race each other in their kayaks. Okay, so there is the sentence you're going to use as your answer. Oh, I've jumped back here. Okay, all right. They have the most fun when they race each other in their kayaks. All right, there you go. All right, is there any more questions here? Where do they stop and why? Okay, now we know how to say it. We know where they stop and we know why they like to stop. But again, remember that your spelling is important. Okay, so we can go back here. Okay, they have a favorite spot on the lake to stop and eat their sandwiches. Okay, so where do they stop? On the lake, and they eat their sandwiches. That is why they are stopping. Let's go back here. They have a favorite spot on the lake to stop and eat their sandwiches. Okay, very good. Right, there's one more thing I just want to point out to you, and I want to go back here to show you. Okay, right. When you get a comprehension, I want you to notice that question number one, remember we had question number one, and we found the answer right here in the beginning. Okay, then we had question number two, and we had to skip a little bit of sentences, but then we found the answer to question number two. Okay, then we got question number three. Oh, we were lucky it was right afterwards. We carried on reading. Then there was question four, and this was what we used for question four. Okay, then we got question number five, and we found the answer over here. So are you noticing that question number one, you are never going to find the answer right here at the end of the story? Okay, if it's the first question, the chances are the answer will be here somewhere in the beginning. Okay, then the next question, the answer will come after that. Okay, so when you are in class and you have a story and you're answering questions, you don't need to jump back and forth on the story. It gets very confusing. You work your way down the story. You will see that we try and keep it in order like that. Okay, and most of the time it is like that. So don't jump around your page. Go to the beginning, find your first answer. Okay, then for the next question, don't go back. Carry on reading. Okay, don't waste your time. All right, that's a waste of time. So we're trying to work efficiently. All right, grade twos, let's keep moving on now that we've answered those questions. Okay, so let's just recap the skills that you've learned today about how to answer comprehensions. Okay, so your first skill is that you're going to read the story and the questions to make sure you answer and to make sure you understand them. Now, I didn't read the questions with you first. It was just quite difficult with the PowerPoint to do that. But in class, some of you might find your teachers, we'll all have different ways of doing it, but some teachers like to actually read the questions first before you even read the story. And the reason for that is because you already have an idea of what are the answers you can start to look for when you read the story. So you know the questions, now you can start to look for the answers as you read. Okay, right. The next skill is that you are going to underline the sentences in the story to help you answer the questions and to make sure all your spelling is correct. Okay, grade twos, it's very frustrating for teachers when you spell something incorrectly and the words were right in front of you. Okay, you need to put a little bit of effort in and make sure that you are copying the spelling correctly. And the easiest way to do that is, like I said, with your ruler, underline the sentence and you can use that as your answer. Right. Remember that an answer is a new sentence. So when you write an answer, you must always start it with a capital letter, and therefore you will end it with a full stop because it is a sentence. All right, grade twos. So I hope that has helped you a little bit. So what you could do now to practice at home is if you're reading stories with mom or dad, maybe what mom and dad can do is encourage you by asking stories about what you've just read. Maybe you could even read a story to someone and make up questions. Sometimes making up questions is also part of it. You get to practice those question words: who, what, why, when. Otherwise, online, there are lots of little comprehensions you could find. Maybe I'll post some ideas for your parents and they can go and look for those comprehensions and you can answer them yourselves. But I look very forward to doing this with you in class. It's much nicer when we can talk about it and discuss it and have fun with it. All right, grade twos, I hope that helped. I hope you enjoyed that and I will see you soon. Bye.